Hello readers by eyes and by ears, this is Mari Chan and welcome back to my channel. Today we are continuing with the reading of Remnants of Filth Volume 5, also known as Yu by Rou Bao or just Meat Bun. And we're starting today at chapter 139. The pot of hot water came to a burbling boil. Grabbing a handkerchief, the young cultivator picked up the hot copper handle and carefully poured water into a red clay teapot. The small house was composed of a narrow hall and small kitchen separated by a blue cloth screen on the left. A flimsy door hid the bedroom behind it on the right. Only after wiping the table down 3 or 4 times did the cultivator bring out the tea tray. In addition to the freshly steeped tea, the tray held 2 plates of fruits and nuts. General Moore, please have some tea. He'd finally gotten it right. Earlier in the alley, this cultivator must have been scared out of his wits to slip up and call Moshi stepdad. And this, he timidly raised his eyes, gazing at Goo Mahng in fear. What should he say? Stepmother? Stepmommy? His second guest was wearing a mask that hid their features completely, so the cultivator wasn't sure how to address them, but he was absolutely certain of what he'd seen in the alley. The Northern Frontier Army's General Moa, their Shihajun, as cold and aloof as a holy deity, had definitely been about to kiss this person. Moshi had cleared his throat and explained sand had gotten into his friend's eye, and that he was helping blow it out. Who on earth would believe him? The cultivator was equal parts curious and terrified. Heavens above, he'd unmasked Shihajun's infidelity on his way back from getting groceries. What should he do? What should he do? Would Shihajun kill him to keep his secret safe? What kind of ethereal beauty did this stepmother possess? How long had they been involved? Did Princess Mangsa know? God. Moshi sat at the table, his expression cool and indifferent. He had no idea the head of his respectful-looking subordinate was bubbling madly, each bubble holding an extremely dangerous question. He sipped his tea. As that cultivator stared at his thin, pale lips, more bubbles burst in his head. Everyone said thin-lipped men were fickle. He'd once thought Shihajun the exception. Who would have expected he was the same as the rest? Poor Princess Mangsa. She'd waited faithfully all these years just to be tossed aside at the drop of a hat. How abominable! On second thought, this stepmother hadn't spoken from the moment they met. He hadn't heard her voice nor seen her face, and her robes were loose, making her physique hard to determine. Could it be that this was Princess Mangsa? If the princess wanted to accompany Shihajun without attracting attention, she might reasonably wear a mask. The cultivator was in such a tizzy, he must have made a face despite himself. Moshi looked at him rather incredulously and set down his cup. Is something the matter? No, nothing's the matter. I am a piece of wood without thoughts. Moshi blinked at him. The cultivator covered his face with his hands. After a moment, he peeked from between his fingers, voice muffled. General Moa, would this, your friend, like anything to drink? Some tea as well, Moshi replied. We're just gifting zongzi to the neighbors on Qingshu elders' behalf. We won't be here long. There's no need to put yourself out. Moshi reached into his qiankun pouch for some of the sweet and savory zongzi they had wrapped at Jiang Yeshue's, but was unsure how many to leave. How many people are in your family? The cultivator scratched his head. It's just me. Goo Mahng couldn't help his quiet hum of surprise. The cultivator turned to him in bewilderment. It was no wonder. Though Goo Mahng's utterance was soft, it was low, much lower than the voice of a woman. Oh no. As the atmosphere began to grow awkward, he heard Moshi's mild voice. My friend caught a cold yesterday and can't really talk because of a sore throat. Could we trouble you to steep a pot of hot ginger tea? Oh, a sore throat, the cultivator mumbled, letting out a sigh. Of course. After fumbling through this variety of mishaps, Goo Mahng and Moshi drank their tea, gave the cultivator his zongzi, and exchanged a few more words before bidding him a polite farewell. Once they were in the street again, Morsi asked, "Why were you so surprised when you heard him speak?" "Oh, it's a long story," Goo Mahng replied. "That kid used to be one of my men." "I know." "You do?" "My remaining 30,000 soldiers all went to your Northern Frontier Army. I didn't think you could tell which ones were my old brothers and which ones you recruited afterward." "It's quite easy to tell," said Morsi. "How?" "Those cultivators of yours all call me stepdad." Morsi's steel-toed army boots clicked crisply against the stone as they walked. "They think I don't know, but I do," he continued. "That young man was the same. When he got anxious in the alleyway and called me stepdad, I knew right away he was one of yours." Goo Mahng rubbed his nose in embarrassment. After a pause, he managed, "Those disobedient little brats, coming up with random nicknames for you." "It's fine," Morsi said. "Unlike me, you really are more like a dad. See, even after so many years, you remember each cultivator's face, but I don't have much impression of them. I'm not good at memorizing these things. I've never been very close with them." Goo Mahng smiled. "You filled your brain memorizing scrolls of magic techniques and reports from the frontier. There's no room for faces." If the conversation continued in this direction, the topic might turn to the Northern Frontier Army's reconstitution. Morsi didn't plan to let it. He didn't want Goo Mahng to find out about the vow of calamity. Morsi's style of command was like his personality, stiff as a board and cold as ice. It was easy to come to the mistaken conclusion that he didn't think much of his foot soldiers. He had no gift for stirring men's hearts with words, nor any skill at uniting the troops with a gentle touch. This was why, years after he had taken over the Northern Frontier Army, his cultivators revered him and feared him, but didn't love him. Other than the emperor, few in Chonghua knew he had once offered up 10 years of his life to vouch for this scrap of an army. Certainly none of the soldiers of the Northern Frontier Army knew what the man they called their stepdad had done for them. In hindsight, the vow had made little difference. Goo Mahng had already guaranteed the safety of his men, so Morsi's oath amounted to nothing more than the emperor taking advantage of him a second time. Even if Morsi hadn't made that deathly vow, the emperor would have pardoned those 30,000 loyal soldiers. But what did it matter? Living within the game meant no one knew the truth. The troops' stepdad was stuffy and stern. No one was all-knowing. How could they know what mysteries hid beneath his outward appearance? Perhaps he had his own failings here and there, but he had done his utmost, had forfeited years of his own life to protect these people he thought were in danger. Despite it all, what he received in return was a terrified address of stepdad, and the remarks like, "General Moi is a noble after all. He wouldn't share our views." Who said a group's collective scorn was reserved for those below them? In truth, this commander, who had stepped out from the nobility and into the mud, had long since, and unintentionally, been scorned to the bone by his own soldiers. "But that cultivator," Morsi said, "why were you shocked when you heard him say he was alone in his family?" "Oh, you see, he looked so young. He enlisted when he was 16, Goo Mahng replied. "At the time, he was the youngest junior under my command. When I asked him why he joined up, he said he had 3 elder brothers, and all of them joined the military. He didn't want to be left home alone, so he couldn't laze around any longer." Goo Mahng's eyes dimmed. Those 3 elder brothers of his were fine, righteous young men. When I left Chonghua, I seem to remember all 3 of them were alive. I didn't expect. Morsi was quiet a moment. "Blades have always been heartless. Don't read into this too deeply. No single man can guarantee the safety of all. You did everything you could. Your conscience should be clear." Goo Mahng made no sound. After a long pause, he blurted, "The oldest brother from that family, he said, as soon as he had enough money to buy a house, he would take a wife and live a peaceful life." Finally, he sighed. If only the war would end soon. That was impossible. On the contrary, the end of the armistice was drawing closer every day. Not long after the Dragon Boat Festival, an urgent report came from the northern frontier. The Liao kingdom had reneged on the terms of the treaty, shattering the promise of 2 peaceful years. Their forces had launched a surprise attack on Shituo Gate, the weakest pass along Chonghua's border. Shituo Gate requested emergency aid. When the news arrived, the emperor was in the throes of a flare-up, so ill he couldn't even move. He had no choice but to entrust the situation to Murong Mengzi on his behalf. Many of his officials, oblivious to the truth of his condition, were greatly dissatisfied with the emperor's decision and didn't hesitate to wag their tongues. What illness is afflicting His Imperial Majesty? If His Imperial Majesty is indisposed, he should be diagnosed by the 3 elders of Shengnong Terrace, and his illness announced to the ministers of the court. Why is he blowing us off and going into seclusion? What about holding court? This behavior is without precedent in any generation or dynasty. Morsi could sense the mood spreading throughout the court. These officials didn't yet know the emperor was afflicted with an incurable disease, but paper could only hide fire for so long. Many clever-minded people had already guessed the truth, but couldn't be sure and dared not rashly investigate. Then there were those few old nobles lacking in intelligence. Though they hadn't at all guessed what was wrong with the emperor, his appointment of Mengzi piqued them to no end. At least, for now, they didn't dare aim their complaints at the emperor, but they had plenty to say about Mengzi. Mengzi intended to send Chonghua's winged cavalry at all speed, then dispatch several battalions from the 2 nearest fort garrisons to stabilize the dangerous situation at Shituo Gate. Morsi approved. It was a sensible strategy. He just hadn't expected the motion to be vetoed by so much of the court. The winged cavalry is under His Imperial Majesty's direct command. How can we so carelessly move it from the imperial capital? Deploying troops is a serious matter. If the princess wishes to mobilize this many men, we must first call a war council. And these voices were among the more reasonable. Many others expressed their objections directly to Mengzi, confident in their reputations as distinguished singers. Murong Mengzi, you're a woman. What right do you have to wield military power? It would be one thing if Wang Shizun took up the reins. You're not even a court official. We're both of us kin to the imperial family. Who outranks whom here? We respect His Imperial Majesty's orders, of course. It's all well and good for you to hold court on his behalf, but we can't possibly have a little girl command the army, can we? If something serious were to happen, who would take responsibility? Even with the support of the officials from Morsi's Bureau of Military Affairs, Mengzi's military orders were delayed again and again by tedious bickering and the cycle of political checks and balances. Thus, Shituo Gate was lost. The black magic army of the Liao kingdom marched south with banners aloft, capturing 3 major border cities: Feng City, Dazi City, and Di City. The civilian populace was captured, and tens of thousands of defending soldiers slaughtered without mercy. By the time this news came, the emperor had returned to health and convened the court, but it was too late. He sat on the throne with the border reports from the past score of days spread out before him, his countenance terrifying. Before Shituo Gate sent their emergency request for aid, they asked for reinforcements 14 times and mounted a desperate resistance for 7 days. The emperor slapped the pile of military reports onto the table and looked up, eyes flashing with icy menace above the white fur of his collar. We gave Mengzi authority. Were all of you dead, or did you fall pregnant and were scared to lose the baby? Why did you cower and refuse to mobilize troops? Chapter 140. Demonblood Beast. Faced with the emperor's wrath, everyone murmured their agreement. No one dared stick their neck out. Speak, the emperor commanded. When Mengzi sat here on my behalf, didn't you all have quite a lot to say? What now? Our ministers have all gone mute? One gray-bearded noble stepped out from the ranks. Your Imperial Majesty, dispatching troops to Shituo was indeed a matter of great urgency, but such major military action requires your Imperial Majesty's personal approval. If Princess Mengzi is to make a decision on your Imperial Majesty's behalf, many groups must weigh in before it can be implemented. Otherwise, it goes against all regulations. Regulations? The Emperor narrowed his eyes, his expression growing dangerous. Fascinating. What regulations? The system of the nation of Chonghua, the rules set by our ancestors. Our ancestors' rules have cost us 3 frontier cities. The emperor cut him off, baring his teeth. To hell with your regulations! That old noble flinched, his wrinkled neck shrinking back like a turtle's. The emperor's fury finally got the better of him, and he burst into thunderous rage before the court, slamming a hand on the table. What do you want? He demanded. Does it matter if it's a man or a woman giving orders? We will appoint whomever we wish to take charge on our behalf. Or did you all expect we would let you have the final say? May as well fetch a pig from the backyard and set it on our throne, he continued. We'll not speak of Datsu just yet. A Liao army, 300,000 strong, once attempted to invade Feng City, but were beaten back by our nation. This city is an ancient, crucial foothold for Chonghua. Since time immemorial, every enemy attack there has met with failure. Yet this time, these 3 cities were occupied within the span of 20 days. Even a pig wouldn't allow such a travesty. Who overruled Meng's orders? Who refused to let her dispatch troops to Shutuo? Was it you? The emperor jabbed a finger directly at the old noble who had spoken up. Of course it wasn't this old subject. The old man hastily replied, How could this old subject alone have decided such a major thing? It was what? You blabber without cease, yet go mute as soon as it's time to be held accountable. Speak up. Unless we should ask Mengzi to name names. Mengzi had been granted an exemption to attend court as a woman. She wore an official's headpiece of black gauze trimmed in gold, as well as a black official's robe in phoenix-patterned jacquard. Though the robe had wide sleeves, the tailoring of the waist was straight and clean, lending her a sharp, gallant air unlike her usual aura. Thus addressed, her long lashes fluttered low as she spoke. Imperial brother, please quell your rage. Shutuo Gate is lost, and 3 cities have fallen to enemy hands. We can't predict what the Liao kingdom will do next. Now is not the time to assign blame. I ask Imperial Brother to first take inventory, transfer troops from the Northern Frontier Army, and prepare a counterattack. The old nobles had all worried that Mengzi, having endured all manner of bigotry in the past few days, would take the first opportunity to tattle to her big brother. Now they let out a great sigh of relief and silently applauded her. This girl didn't even take the chance to strike back. How gentle she was. Of course, one of the nobles piped up. Your Imperial Majesty, you see, we were only concerned with upholding the important regulations of Chonghua's Imperial Court. Our hearts were in the right place, though the outcome was certainly not ideal. Please be appeased. Quite right, someone else added. Your Imperial Majesty, a family has its rules and a nation has its laws. Your subjects made decisions based on the nation's own dictums. It caused the loss of 3 cities and a pass, yes, but law and order have been preserved. This is not necessarily without merit. As soon as he heard this, the emperor's quiescent rage kindled back to life. Unbelievably, another noble chimed in. Your Imperial Majesty fell sick for more than 20 days. We subject had great cause for concern. If your Imperial Majesty is afflicted with some serious illness, by law, the Council of Elders must be informed as soon as possible. Such secrecy strikes needless worry into the hearts of your court officials. The emperor lost his temper. Inhaling sharply, he looked up through eyes reddened with hatred. Some advisors, he shouted, palm striking the table. Not a single useful suggestion out of your mouths. Are you only good for petty gossip? The hall fell silent. The official who had been first to offer advice did so with such self-assurance because his family possessed a token of immunity granted by Chonghua's first emperor. His network of connections spanned all levels of the court. Now, he only feigned alarm. Your Imperial Majesty mustn't get upset. Ensuring the health of the emperor is our most urgent duty. Seething with rage, the emperor turned away as if unable to bear the sight of the trash in front of him. He stared in silence at one of the great hall's pillars and attempted to calm himself to no avail. Fury flooded his chest, drowning him in formless hatred. He closed his eyes. Then, flinging his sleeves, he overturned the table before him with a deafening crash. Cherries and pears scattered across the floor, and the court scrolls and memorials fell in a disordered heap. Get out! Get the hell out! All of you get the hell out! Yes, Your Imperial Majesty. As the crowd hurriedly acquiesced, the Emperor spoke again, panting for breath as he glared at his officials through eyes scarlet with rage. Hold it! Everyone froze. Shihajun, you stay behind. In minutes, only Moshi and the Emperor remained in the hall. The Emperor heaved a deep sigh, slumping in exhaustion. Leaning back on the dragon throne, he turned hollow eyes to the vaulted roof carved with dragons and phoenixes, painted in vermilion and lavishly gilded. Token of immunity! Token of immunity! The Emperor spat. What a gift the ancestors have left us, enabling a group of useless hangers-on, each of them scrambling to get ahead of the others. Why should we keep them? It'd be more effective to raise a horde of thoughtless bamboo warriors. Why not just give these orders and titles to some simple-minded bamboo men? It would save us the headache. Your Imperial Majesty, there's no need to continue to speak of such wild imaginings. What's wild about them? The Emperor snapped, voice dark. We'd rather have pigs with neither brains nor ambition than subjects with ambition but no brains. Moshi pressed his thin lips into a line. This emperor had come into power when Chonghua was on the cusp of reform. The level of pushback he'd met with was almost unprecedented. When he was undermined both overtly and covertly at every turn, he would always burst forth with ideas like, it'd be better to keep a pile of obedient bamboo warriors whenever he felt hemmed in. Moshi sighed to himself. He had no wish to entertain any more nonsense. How does your Imperial Majesty plan to strike back at Liao? Unexpectedly, the Emperor replied, I'm afraid we must do more than strike back. He brought a hand to his brow, massaging his temples. Shihajun, do you know why we couldn't leave seclusion for over 20 days? The freezing illness. If that's so, why didn't we ask you to come expel the cold as usual? I wouldn't know. The Emperor straightened his spine, figure shrouded by the horizontal plaque hanging in the throne room. Shihajun's driven out the cold from us all these years. Have you never once wondered how we fell ill? If your Imperial Majesty doesn't speak of it, I won't ask. Yes, you've always been prudent, the Emperor nodded. You only lose your head when it comes to that dear Shishong of yours. After a pause, the Emperor continued. We've not kept the truth from you on purpose. It was only that the moment was not right. Given the current circumstances, we believe it's time we explain. Please speak, Your Imperial Majesty. The Emperor deliberated for a moment, then sighed. This story properly begins with the old tales of the Liao Kingdom's founding. We assume we needn't recount those events in detail. From graying elders to toddling children, there's simply no one in Chonghua who doesn't know this story. Preceptor Cheng Tang once made an exception to take the slave Hua Po An as his disciple, which ended in Hua Po An's treason. Hua Po An secretly amassed an army of traitors, named himself king at Chonghua's northern frontier, and founded that nation of 10,000 evils. Everyone across the 9 provinces knows they use savage methods and favor black magic. But, here, the Emperor raised his head. Have you ever thought where the Liao Kingdom's techniques originated? Is my theory going to be correct? Hua Po An was a singular genius when it came to magic, answered Moshi. Of the black magic techniques in use there today, most were his own inventions. But how could he have produced so many original spells? He was raised as a slave without education. Who was it that showed him this path? There was only one answer. Cheng Tang. Moshi frowned. But Cheng Tang never dirtied his hands with such unorthodox arts. Who said the origins of unorthodox techniques must be unorthodox in themselves? The Emperor replied. In the 5 years General Goo spied for us in Liao, he sent back intelligence on many of the Liao Kingdom's black magic techniques. Other than a small fraction of spells pulled entirely from some of the last writings of the demon tribe, we discovered there were many echoes of Chonghua's techniques. Think of it like this. Hua Po An was a brilliant mind. A man like him wouldn't have wanted to learn magic by rote memorization and mimicry. Once he mastered Cheng Tang's techniques, he would almost certainly have sunk time into making them more extraordinary, more powerful. Cheng Tang prioritized reliability. Hua Po An prioritized novelty and danger. With a flourish of his fingers, the emperor conjured a red-gold flame in his palm. This is the 9 lotus flame technique passed down by Preceptor Chun. It's capable of expelling weak demonic chi from afflicted commoners. You should be familiar with it. The emperor turned his hand to form 2 more sigils. The warm flame was swiftly extinguished, replaced by a twisting vortex of blue-black miasma. Morsi's eyes widened. The damned Heart Sutra? Correct, the emperor said. This is the damned Heart Sutra we recreated using the notes on black magic techniques provided by Subject Goo. You likely found this spell a massive headache in the years you crossed swords with the Liao kingdom. It is a perfect reversal of the 9 lotus flame. It allows commoners to be consumed by demonic chi. The emperor dispersed the damn Heart Sutra with another flourish. But Shihajuan, if it weren't for Goo Mahng discovering the technical diagrams of the damned Heart Sutra for us, we would have never known there were merely 2 sigils separating our flame technique from this black magic. Morsi stood for an astonished beat. Your Imperial Majesty is saying many of Hua Po An's techniques bear incontrovertible signs of Chuntang's influence. Correct. Most of the Liao Kingdom's black magic spells have their roots in Chonghua's techniques. Hua Po An was born of Chonghua and learned from Chuntang. No matter how he changed later, one cannot escape their origins. Now, returning to the topic at hand, do you recall how Preceptor Chun lost his life? Morsi thought. The history books say he sacrificed himself to destroy the Demonblood beast that Hua Po An refined. The emperor nodded. The blood demon beast was vicious and cruel, a terrifying creature. Had it been allowed to grow at will, it would have wielded colossal powers of destruction. What's more, it emitted an ever-present demonic aura capable of affecting the minds of all living creatures within 30 miles. Simply by existing, it gradually infected people with malevolent chi, turning them violent and bloodthirsty. The legends are truly the stuff of nightmares. They call it a demon beast that can never be killed. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, it can revive itself from death. Thus, even though Chuntang sealed it, many generations of Chonghua's emperors have been wary of that beast's return. By my imperial father's generation, he paused. In order to meet that unlikely risk, he deceived his subjects and carried out a secret experiment. Morsi tensed. Did the late emperor want to make another demon blood beast? No. Then, when he looked through the diagrams and secret records Chuntang left behind, he found a set of scrolls describing the raising of a spirit beast. The creature it spoke of was nearly identical to the demon beast, but its abilities were completely reversed. It was an entity capable of purification. Our imperial father hoped to surreptitiously raise a spirit beast capable of countering the demon blood beast. And that spirit beast is Goo Mahng. Just kidding, not really. This secret was frankly unbelievable. Morsi found himself momentarily speechless. The late emperor once wanted to raise a creature similar to the demon blood beast in the service of Chonghua. He took a moment to wrap his head around this information. But if there was such a spirit beast, why didn't Chuntang make it back then? He eventually asked. Because although the spirit beast is capable of purification, the refinement process was cruel and dangerous. Chuntang sealed these records, and our imperial father failed in his attempt. However, as we see it, the reason for our imperial father's failure wasn't merely that the technique is inherently difficult. Since antiquity, major accomplishments have required the right circumstances, timing, location, and people. None of these can be imperfect or lacking. When my late father attempted to raise the spirit beast, Chuntang was long gone, and the scrolls were difficult to understand. The timing was not right. In addition, Datsu City, where Chuntang sealed the demon blood beast, was in the hands of the Liao Kingdom. There was no way to investigate the flow of spiritual energy, so the location was not right. As for the final element, he came to a pause, absently turning the string of Ditsa beads on his wrist. This venture is risky. Our imperial father couldn't announce it to the world, and the few who knew all had their own agendas. In the end, the conflict between them could not be resolved. Thus, the people were not right either. The odds were stacked against him on 3 fronts. He continued, "My late father's venture was considered a failure. No one knows where the incomplete body of the spirit beast ended up. Perhaps it fell apart on its own, or perhaps he destroyed it. This has always been an enigma." Okay, just keep pointing me in that direction, will you? The raising of the spirit beast was erased from the annals of Chonghua, but the traces it left behind... The emperor stopped and looked at Mo Xi. Everyone who secretly interacted with the spirit beast experienced unusual mutations to various degrees. Mo Xi narrowed his eyes. Who? The records were strictly classified and later destroyed. Even we can't name them all. As far as we know, 3 individuals were affected for certain. The emperor had stopped spinning the bracelet and now thumbed a single bead. Is he thumbing the 7th bead? Okay, I'm gonna stop my commentary. The first, Zhou Xiao. Zhou He's father? Correct. The former Grand Elder of Sushu Terrace. At the time, he was likely the Grandmaster in charge of refining the spirit beast. He acquired an abnormal bloodthirstiness. Mo Xi contemplated this in silence. The bloody legends surrounding the Zhou clan were too numerous to count. Zhou He's penchant for cracking open skulls and poking through brains had long ceased to be news. His father, Zhou Xiao, had died an early death. Mo Xi didn't have much impression of him, but he did recall that this Grand Elder loved his meat raw and bloody at the end of year's feast. He would never have imagined this was the reason. Is Zhou He's cruelty related to this as well? Yes, the emperor answered. Where they had close contact with their blood kin, the mutations those cultivators underwent unwittingly permeated the bodies of their relations. Zhou He undoubtedly has his father to thank for his own taste for blood. Then what about the second? Who was the second person? It was Murong Xuan. Murong Lian's father? The emperor nodded. Murong Xuan was our late father's own blood brother. He was also involved in this secret plan, but his situation was unusual. He had an argument with our late father early on and refused to participate in the project. Not long after, he lost his life on the battlefield. The spirit beast's effect on him was minimal and didn't seem to affect Murong Lian at all. We're only certain he was the second person because of his grave. The emperor spun a few more deeds beads. The burial mounds atop Warrior Soul Mountain are all sealed with white jade. This type of jade is dense and pure, and does not easily erode. It is capable of preserving the buried person as they were in life, with the exception of the late Wang Shu. Some years ago, the cemetery guards reported that the late Wang Shu's jade gravestone appeared to be a counterfeit. Within 2 short decades, it had begun to deteriorate and discolor. Of course, we ordered craftsmen to repair the grave. But once the jade sealing stone was opened, the craftsmen discovered the body within had blackened completely, consumed by the mutation. Mo Xi frowned. Does Murong Lian know of this? He wasn't in the capital at the time, so he never found out. The truth of this matter is crucial. We have always kept it from him. Faced with Mo Xi's silence, the emperor sighed. Isn't it always so? The person sitting atop this throne must keep far too many secrets. There are some things we would rather not know. He paused. No matter. We won't speak of them now. The third person. By this time, Mo Xi didn't need him to say it. After the first 2 examples, his identity was obvious. Mo Xi closed his eyes and spoke frankly. If I've guessed correctly, the third person is the late emperor himself. The emperor was taken aback. Then he grimaced. You are correct. The third person was our imperial father. His mutation was an unnatural fear of the cold. Yes. At some point, the late emperor of Chonghua had become abnormally afraid of the cold. He was a fire-type cultivator, but he developed a penchant for warming himself by stoves and wrapping himself in furs, a habit that grew more pronounced as the years passed. Everyone had chalked it up to his declining health as he aged. No one could have guessed such a truth lay behind it. Our late father didn't know his condition was an effect of rearing the spirit beast, nor that it could be passed down to his descendants through mere proximity, said the emperor. He was in constant contact with us, and out of those 3 men, he lived the longest. And so, the influence of his mutation on us was far more severe than the other 2 fathers on their children. The emperor lowered his lashes, playing with the string of beads as he continued, voice low. We were weak in our youth, and naturally have a yin-aligned water-type spiritual flow. Over time, we succumbed to the freezing illness. His voice quieted further, the eyes beneath his dark lashes flowing with turbulent emotion like an underground river. His thin lips opened softly. Our late father unknowingly afflicted this illness that would plague us for a lifetime. But when he eventually learned of our disease, he thought of disposing his heir. The emperor sighed and said no more. The water clock in the shape of the legendary tortoise Bixi dripped quietly in the corner of the throne room. Fresh drops landed on the reflections in the pool, shattering the peace into rippling waves. Even the simplest person harbored a few dark secrets, to say nothing of an age-old nation. Morsi had only known the emperor was afflicted by an incurable freezing illness. He hadn't known the cause, much less its connection to the late emperor. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. The emperor sighed. Forget it. What's done is done. Right now, our cause for grief is the loss of Datsa City, where Chuntang sealed the Demonblood beast. Ever since that decisive battle between Chuntang and the Liao Kingdom, the city has been contested territory. The Liao Kingdom has always known that if they wanted to revive their spirit beast, Datsa must fall under their control. As for us, whether for defense of our borders or the study of this magic, we could not surrender Datsa. Over the course of the past few centuries, Chonghua and Liao fought battle after battle at Datsa and traded possession of this land. During the late emperor's reign, Datsa was a territory of the Liao Kingdom. But shortly after we took the throne, Chonghua reclaimed the city. The first thing we did was secretly dispatch members of Sishu Terrace to investigate what traces they could find of the Demonblood beast's seal. And what were the results? Asked Morsi. The emperor shook his head. If they were made public, panic would seize all of Chonghua. The emperor hesitated, then continued quietly. The Demonblood beast's seal has already been broken. Morsi flinched in surprise. During the dozen or so years the Liao Kingdom controlled Datsa, the emperor explained, they successfully released the Demonblood beast's seal and excavated it from the depths of Datsa Lake. Morsi's pupil shrank. If the Liao Kingdom has already reacquired the Demonblood beast, why haven't they made any unusual advances? The seal has been broken, but it's possible the Demonblood beast was injured too severely in the last battle and lost too much of its vital energy, the emperor answered. As far as we know, it remains in a dormant state and cannot be commanded by the Liao Kingdom's cultivators, but the most formidable barrier is gone. If it's merely sleeping, it can be reawakened. The emperor sighed. The first time we heard this secret report, we could hardly sleep for weeks. Night and day, we wondered if the Demonblood beast was capable of revival. Perhaps the Liao Kingdom had skillful grandmasters who could restore its soul after it was sealed for centuries. If they did, then how long would they need? Morsi made no reply. The emperor brought a hand to his forehead and massaged his brow. Shizun, now do you understand why we so urgently needed someone of unquestionable loyalty to spy on the Liao Kingdom? His voice was low. We must know every detail of their progress with the Demonblood beast. There was no second Chuntang to protect the gates of Chonghua. What is the Demonblood beast's current condition, then? Morsi asked gravely. It took Goo Mahng an entire year to dig up any useful information on it. After the seal was broken, the Demonblood beast was placed within a soul-preserving pouch to recuperate. But Chuntang damaged it so severely that its power waned continuously despite their best attempts to resuscitate it. As of yet, there has been no sign of its reawakening. Upon seeing the sharp furrow of Morsi's brow's ease, the emperor warned, "Do not relax just yet. We have previously thought the threat posed by the Demonblood beast was more or less contained, and didn't merit excessive worry. But recently, a Sushu Terrace cultivator stationed in Datsa sent us a secret missive. Our people had detected a wisp of the Demonblood beast's soul in the lake it was sealed in." Morsi's eyes flew wide. "So the Demonblood beast has remained dormant not because it's too weak, but because the Liao kingdom was missing this piece of its soul?" "Exactly so," the emperor replied. "Chung Tang shattered the Demonblood beast's soul so thoroughly that a wisp of it escaped from the seal and sank into the lake without anyone taking notice. Precisely due to this missing scrap of soul, the Liao kingdom has spent decades incapable of waking their nation's most fearsome weapon. This wisp of soul thus became the most crucial element in our fight against Liao. When we learned of this, we immediately sent people to track down the remnant we had detected within the lake. But the task was like fishing for a needle in the ocean. After 6 or 7 years of searching, we'd only narrowed down the area enough to make a true investigation feasible within the past few months. That range still covers more than 30 miles of the lake. If we deploy standard tracking methods, locating it would take many more months. We wish to banish this danger as soon as possible, so we took the risk." "What?" asked Morsi. The emperor lifted a pale finger, pointing at his own temple. "Summoning. We were infected by the spirit beast in our youth and afflicted with the freezing illness, but in the process, we also gained some of the spirit beast's chi. The Demonblood beast and the spirit beast can cast from the same mold. It stands to reason that we might have some capacity to summon it." Morsi pressed his lips together, incredulous. "So your Imperial Majesty spent the past few days comatose in an attempt to locate the Demonblood beast's remnant scrap of soul?" "Yes. In this flare-up of the freezing illness, what we needed was not timely relief, but rather to let it worsen as it willed. The more severe the effects, the heavier the spirit beast's chi on us becomes, and the easier to sense the Demonblood beast. Just yesterday, we pinpointed the whereabouts of that bit of soul. We planned to send people to recover it at once, but we awoke to find that Datsa City has been lost." As the words fell from his lips, the aura in the great hall seemed to grow darker and colder. The emperor closed his eyes, tendons protruding on the back of his hands where they gripped the throne's armrests. His tone became menacing. "The Liao kingdom. It must be that they, too, have finally discovered why the Demonblood beast hasn't recovered. Now that they hold Datsa, all that remains is tracking down that last wisp of soul. Once they take it into their hands, what awaits Chonghua will no longer be a stalemate over 1 or 2 cities, but a replication of that battle with Huapoan centuries ago." His eyes filled with venom. "Shihejun, do you now understand the stakes at hand? This has bearing on the foundation of our nation. It's not a truth we would tell anyone whose loyalty is in question. The loss of Datsa is far more serious than it seems to our officials. We will immediately dispatch troops to retake Datsa under your command. But you must understand, the goal is not the city. It is the remnant of the Demonblood beast's soul within the lake. Find it as soon as possible." After a pause, the emperor added, "If we fail in this, when the Demonblood beast's soul is fully assembled, when it returns to life, it is not just Chonghua, but the entire cultivation world that will sink into chaos. By then, it will be too late. This calamity will span the continent and wreak destruction throughout the land." Chapter 141. Return to Battle. When Morsi returned to his manor, Goo Mahng was reading and writing in the study. The small, red lacquered window was wide open to a view of scattered petals floating down outside. Goo Mahng wore a relaxed, pale blue robe of hemp, his braid loosely looped into a messy bun at the back of his head. Shadows cast by the drifting flowers danced over his figure at the desk. As soon as he saw the booklet Goo Mahng had open on the table, Morsi knew he was once again recording those fading memories. Wholly focused on his work, he didn't notice Morsi's arrival. His cheeks were puffed out in concentration, his berry-red lips slightly pursed. Smoke-dark lashes cast gentle shadows over the bridge of his nose, fluttering from time to time. Morsi couldn't bear to shatter his hard-won peace. He stood outside the half-open study doors and gazed into the room in silence. After a long, long while, Goo Mahng finished his notes for the day and lifted his head. Catching sight of Morsi outside the door, Goo Mahng's blue eyes widened in surprise. When did you get back? Have you been standing there this whole time? Morsi had never been a good liar, but at this moment he spoke with a natural calm as he stepped into the room. No, I've just returned. What happened? Goo Mahng asked. Did His Imperial Majesty resume court today? He did. That's good. Then the cities near Shituo Gate will... It's too late. We've lost Datsa City as well. The news came today. Another city? Exclaimed Goo Mahng. Morsi replied. His Imperial Majesty has already penned the edicts. In another Shichun, they will go out to the residences to summon everyone to the command platform at noon, where he'll appoint commanders and officially deploy the army to the northern frontier. He's already discussed this with you? Morsi paused. Yes. I'll be leading the Northern Frontier Army alongside 50,000 cultivators of the Winged Cavalry under Murong Lian's command. Another 50,000 cultivators of the Scarlet-Plumed Battalion are to join us, currently without a commander. Okay, so how do we get Goo Mahng in there then? Goo Mahng's brows knit as soon as he heard Murong Lian's name. Murong Lian had no interest in the battlefield these days and was chained to his pipe of ephemera. Why did the Emperor insist on sending him into battle? When he heard the Scarlet-Plumed Battalion still lacked a commander, his frown deepened. He doesn't have anyone in mind? Goo Mahng asked. Morsi shook his head. He set on appointing Mengzi. Goo Mahng said nothing. Mengzi has a weak constitution now, but she previously commanded the Scarlet Plumes. This division consists of the most skilled fighters from the ranks of the nobles. They'll obey orders, but they're arrogant. His Imperial Majesty worries no other commander will tolerate their attitude, so he intends to have Mengzi take administrative control of the Scarlet-Plumed Battalion while leaving operations on the field to another. Goo Mahng pursed his lips. Do you think that's His Imperial Majesty's true goal? I won't guess at his motives, Morsi said. I came back here before heading to the command platform because I wanted to ask something of you. If it were possible, would you be willing to take command of the Scarlet-Plumed troops in Mengzi's stead and come with me to the front lines? That's what I said. Okay. Sorry. Goo Mahng was stunned. You want me to command the old Scarlet Plumes? Yes. Are you willing to do it? Goo Mahng's shifting emotions showed clearly upon his face. Before he had the chance to gather himself, his cheeks had flushed in surprise and delight at hearing that he could fight side by side with the soldiers of his own nation once again. But gradually, the enthusiastic color on his face retreated like the tide, and the light in his eyes dimmed. Morsi, I very much want to go with you to the front lines, Goo Mahng said slowly. Even if you hadn't told me, I would have gone without reservation as soon as I found out. Morsi couldn't hold back a pained smile. I know. Actually, I'd like to keep you as far from the front lines as possible. But if I really did stop you, you'd be unhappy, and you'd only blame me. I suggested this arrangement to the Emperor. Goo Mahng froze in astonishment, then lowered his lashes. Thank you. Raising a hand, Morsi stroked Goo Mahng's hair. Predictably, he put too much force into it, and Goo Mahng's bun had been tied loosely. A few wisps came loose and hung, pitch black, by Goo Mahng's cheek. In any case, there are benefits to bringing you, said Morsi. At least I'll be able to keep an eye on you. If you're willing, I'll tell His Imperial Majesty. I do want to go to the battlefield, Goo Mahng cut him off, but not as the commander of the Scarlet-Plumed Battalion. Morsi waited for him to continue. I can no longer be a general, said Goo Mahng. Think about it. The Scarlet-Plumed Battalion is made up of cultivators from the royal bloodline. After so many years fighting against the Liao kingdom, they'd hate me to the core. How would they listen to my commands? It's a fantasy. Morsi paused. If that's what you're worried about, there's no need for concern, answered Morsi. You can wear a mask, and His Imperial Majesty will tell the Scarlet-Plumed Battalion you're an illustrious noble from the imperial family who, for certain reasons, cannot reveal their identity. With this explanation from His Imperial Majesty and me as commanding general, the cultivators won't act rashly no matter what they suspect. Beneath Morsi's defined brows, those phoenix eyes, black as night, looked down at Goo Mahng. That gaze was so gentle, devoid of urging or instigation, filled only with endless acceptance, like an ocean that had swallowed all the stars of the night sky. Only if you're willing, Morsi said. If you're not, or if you'd rather be a foot soldier at my side, it's up to you. But how could Goo Mahng be unwilling? And how could he be unaware of the painstaking effort Morsi had gone to? If there came a future opportunity to reveal he'd been a spy, then leading the Scarlet-Plumed Battalion to glorious victory would be an incontrovertible evidence of his service to the nation. Morsi must have worked arduously to secure this offer from the Emperor, who had already set his sights on Murong out of motives of his own. Morsi had doubtless played some bargaining chip to win himself this boon from the Emperor. After a moment of silence, Goo Mahng replied, It would be best if Mangsa went. Though Morsi had more or less expected it, his gaze still flickered upon hearing Goo Mahng give up this opportunity. Just as Goo Mahng could tell, with one glance, what sacrifices Morsi had made, the risky moves he had committed to, the way he pushed the Emperor's limits. How could Morsi fail to see that his Shishun's refusal was also for him? Goo Mahng. Goo Mahng tucked his hands into the wide sleeves of his blue robe. I can't lead the Scarlet-Plumed Battalion. All eyes would be on me. Who knows what people may notice? If my identity was exposed in battle, it would throw our own troops into chaos. Plus, my memories have been slowly disappearing all this time. I thought about that too. I don't know what kind of condition I'll be in by then. A commander must have a clear mind. Morsi said nothing. I know what you're thinking. Taking in Morsi's gloomy expression, Goo Mahng stepped forward to cup Morsi's cool cheek in his palm, traces of a gentle smile curving the ends of his eyes. But I just want to do my part for Chonghua. I want to fight shoulder to shoulder with all of you and stay by your side. He stood on his tiptoes and pressed his forehead to Morsi's, letting his hands slip downward to lace their fingers together. This time, just let me be your attendant at your side. Morsi looked down. This isn't the position you deserve. It's the position I want. Morsi said nothing. Be good. Goo Mahng nuzzled his forehead against Morsi's. I'm already so happy I can ride out with you for Chonghua. I'll ride with you, with the Northern Frontier Army. It'll be great. Whatever happens, Morsi, we'll fight side by side again. On the 7th day of the 6th month of the Chonghua calendar, at the height of summer, the Liao kingdom reneged on the agreed armistice of 2 years and mounted a surprise attack on Shituo Gate. While Chonghua delayed dispatching their own forces, the Liao army pressed inward, swallowing the 3 cities of Feng, Di, and Datsa, and taking possession of the crucial territory where Chuntang once sealed the Demonblood beast. When the emperor woke from his sleep and received news of Datsa city's capture, he immediately appointed his generals and prepared to recover it. Wind buffeted the scarlet flags of war. The emperor stood beside the railing of the command platform, one arm tucked behind his back. On his left stood Morsi in a set of black robes trimmed in gold. On his right was Murong in robes of lavish sapphire. The bright sun was at its zenith. The emperor's gaze swept over the 3 assembled armies arrayed meticulously before him. Goo Mahng, still masked, stood within their ranks. The emperor's eyes paused on his figure, his head dipping in an almost imperceptible nod. Thus, he greeted his General Goo. The generals of the northern frontier and the winged cavalry had already been given their commission. The emperor touched the zi beads at his wrist, then performed a voice-amplifying technique to make himself audible to the entire drill ground. Murong Mangzi. Murong Mangzi stepped out to the side of the column of troops. Yes, Your Imperial Majesty. Her features were soft and beautiful, her figure frail, but she held herself tall and upright. With her hair tied up and attire in a set of close-fitting military robes that marked her as a direct descendant of the imperial line, she was the picture of dignity. No one could tell she was an invalid with a broken core. "We appoint you General of the Scarlet-Plumed Battalion," the emperor proclaimed. "We expect that you will work in harmony with Wang Shujuan and support Shi Hejuan as deputy generals in the expedition north to reclaim our lost cities." A murmur rippled through the army. Murong Mangzi bowed her head. "Understood." She took the golden arrow banner of command from the decree official's hand and climbed the vermilion-carpeted steps onto the command platform to stand at Commander Moxi's side. The atmosphere on the command platform was solemn. Those upon it were not permitted to turn and whisper into their neighbors' ears. But when Mangzi took her position as the Scarlet-Plumed Battalion's general, disbelief and dissatisfaction showed on the faces of the distinguished nobles. Though they made no sound, the looks they exchanged spoke volumes. Nothing more needed to be said. There was no shortage of people in Chonghua who could take up this post. Yet this golden arrow banner of command had been entrusted to Mangzi. Were these the emperor's own selfish motives at work? Could it be he wanted to push Mangzi and Shi Hejuan together by having them fight shoulder to shoulder? Or was it purely out of desire to alienate his own relatives? All these suspicions rushed in undercurrents below the silent command platform. In contrast, Goo Mahng, who had dealt closely with the emperor, understood his intent perfectly. This battle was of crucial importance. He had deployed Chonghua's most elite troops to ensure a certain victory. These same distinguished nobles had tarried and quarreled among themselves until Chonghua lost 3 cities and a frontier pass fell into enemy hands, a great blow to the nation. At the time, Murong Mangzi had been given total authority by the emperor, yet was questioned incessantly on account of her gender. On a surface level, the nobles simply appeared unwilling to accept a woman in a position of power, but at the heart of it, those old noble families, with their tokens of immunity and ancestral fiefdoms, thought little of the emperor's authority in the first place. They had brazenly seized this opportunity to fulfill their own ends. These parasitic noble clans were unrestrained in their arrogance. If the emperor appointed any one of them general of the Scarlet-Plumed Battalion, would it not amount to lifting his hand to slap his own face? Only by handing the position to Murong Mangzi could he air his resentment. Only thus could he warn the nobles without words. "We rule Chonghua, whether they are women or slaves. We will use whomever we please, and none of you have a say in the matter." Under the brilliant sun and clear sky, the emperor said, 200,000 troops go forth to meet our enemy. The army marches for Datsa. The drums of war thundered, and the voices of the troops rose as one. Armor glinted in the sunlight, weapons flashing. The cultivators of Chonghua shouted their oaths ahead of battle, their cries soaring into the skies and piercing the clouds. "On your Imperial Majesty's orders, no victory, no return. On your Imperial Majesty's orders, no victory, no return." Goo Mahng was hidden among the crowd, an insignificant soldier. He watched the shouting cultivators on either side, listened to the grand clamor rising from the ranks. After a moment, he quietly followed along, reciting those vows that had once been carved into his heart but were now unfamiliar. Softly, he murmured, "We shall share the robes of battle. No victory, no return." Footnote 3. This line is from the No Clothes poem in the Book of Songs about the solidarity of the teen army. Who says we have no clothes, for we share the same robes of battle? The word for comrade, tongpao, literally means to share the same robe. This is also the poem that was referenced with Moxi's father and his most trusted person that betrayed him. No victory, no return. He mounted an ordinary war horse, the color of dates, the plumes on his helmet nodding in the wind. The city gates opened, and the army advanced northward. In that moment, he once again rode with his old friends, his comrades, and his northern frontier army, now as an unremarkable foot soldier. Everything seemed to return to that sunlit beginning. He turned, and it was as though an equally youthful Lu Jianxing were beside him, a still inexperienced Moxi, and those 70,000 deceased brothers, mounting their horses to ride into battle. They were yet so young, while he was already so feebly aged. No victory, no return! To the sound of these ringing shouts, the troops marched from the drill grounds and toward the main road. Perhaps the sunlight was too bright. Goo Mahng's eyes stung as it streamed past his lashes, and his heart ached so acutely he wanted to weep. Today, he finally set out for battle once more, just as when he had been a high-spirited youth of 20. Chapter 142. The real authority of the Liao kingdom. The guoshi, obviously. 2 days later, as night fell in Datsa City, the thrumming music of a qin flowed from the governor's official residence. At first, the notes sounded beautiful and sweet, but upon closer listening, they raised the hair on the back of one's neck. Listening to this melody was like catching sight of a peerless beauty in splendid dress from afar, but realizing upon closer look, she was a ghost with both feet floating above the ground. A green-clothed Liao Kingdom cultivator ran through the corridors toward the main hall where the qin music was coming from. Reaching the closed doors, he crossed his arms and called out, "Guoshi, the watchtower at the city outskirts has spotted Chonghua's army approaching. They'll reach Datsa in half a shichan at most." There was no answer from within the hall. Orange lamplight shone through the white gauze at the windows. Only when that haunting song came to its delicate end did the great doors creak open. The guoshi of the Liao kingdom strolled over the threshold, entirely calm. An exquisite golden mask concealed his face, and his hair was fastened with a gold filigree crown. Though he had merely the rank of a state preceptor, he wore a set of lavish yellow robes embroidered with the dragon patterns reserved for the king. Those robes were edged in silver, with the designs stitched in silken thread refined from the tail feathers of spiritual birds. Under the moonlight, the fabric rippled with a resplendent sheen. "So soon?" The guoshi's tone was unconcerned. "I'd have thought they needed at least 3 days to make it here. Our taking Datsa has certainly made the infant of Chonghua's throne anxious." He snickered. "Those righteous troops have so impatiently hurried over to confront us. You'd better go to the city walls and make proper preparations. We mustn't disappoint our guests when they've come all this way." The messenger cultivator remained standing in place, his head bowed and arms crossed. Though the guoshi spoke amiably and looked cheerful enough behind his mask, none of the messengers dared to lift their heads before him. Everyone in the Liao kingdom, down to children just learning to babble, knew that in this dark country, the most terrifying authority was not the king, but the guoshi who sent him dancing like a puppet and mastered the court. This man was cruel and capricious, his actions incomprehensible by any measure of reason or rule. To him, even the youthful ruler of the Liao kingdom was a pile of mud he could kick aside at any moment, to say nothing of his lowly subjects. In the days when the young king had just taken the throne, there had been a clan who thought to ally with the queen mother to take out this tyrant, but before the plot had gotten beyond first steps, the guoshi rendered the conspirators powerless and turned those disloyal subjects into mincemeat. The king was devastated and ran, weeping in despair, to his mother for support. But on that same cold night, the guoshi paid a personal visit to the bedchamber of the Liao king's royal mother. As though testing the new king's courage, he debased the woman before the young man's eyes. Then, laughing madly, he cut her head off. In the dark shadows of that luxurious bedchamber, the guoshi's robes hung lazily open, exposing a swath of sturdy chest. He dipped his fingers into the dead woman's still-warm blood and smiled as he smeared it over the king of Liao's face. The king trembled and shook. The first emotion he expressed wasn't desire to avenge his mother, but naked fear. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. The guoshi flashed an insincere smile, his tone unreadable. Don't kill you? You certainly are a coward. The young ruler sobbed. Guoshi, please, I'm begging. But that's not so hard. He examined the bloodstains on his fingertips, lips curving slightly. Were you as daring as your mother? You might provide some entertainment, but keeping you would be like raising a tiger. It's better if you're a craven weakling. Between this ruler and his subject, it was plain who held real power. A wealthy and prominent citizen of Liao had once directly admonished the guoshi along these lines, saying he should simply usurp the throne. The guoshi, however, had no such intentions. What's so interesting about being king? It's too tiring. This position of guoshi is better, far more tempting. All my life, I wanted to be guoshi more than anything else. The man smiled, syrupy sweet. Don't pressure me to take the throne. I'm a gentle creature. I don't have such beastly aspirations. It was true that the guoshi didn't aspire to beastliness. He was a flesh-eating and blood-sucking monster by nature. But he also loved to put on a show of gentility. When he lifted his head from his prey's entrails, with his mouth dripping blood, he would wear the sweetest smile. All across the vast continent of the 9 provinces, everyone knew the Liao kingdom wasn't ruled by the king, but his perverse guoshi. Here was the real master of this dark nation. At this moment, the messenger official was serving his frightful man. Naturally, he was aware of the risks of the post. This year alone, 32 messenger officials had met their end in the Liao kingdom. Some of them didn't know, even as their heads were struck off their shoulders, what they'd said to displease the guoshi so. Or perhaps the guoshi hadn't been displeased at all. Perhaps he had merely wanted to take someone's head off and nothing more. What are you staring at? Tell the troops outside the city gates to make preparations, the guoshi ordered with a grin. Is even such a minor task so beyond you? You need to disturb my teen playing for this. The messenger felt hairs rise all over his body as he broke out in a cold sweat. Yes, he cried hastily. I'll go at once. He ran off in abject terror. The guoshi watched his fearful retreat with a smile. He stood for a brief interval in the courtyard, then turned back into the main hall. This hall had become something of a living purgatory. The corpse of the governor of Datsa, who'd slit his own throat, had yet to be removed. Neither had the bodies of the governor's wife and 5 children, who'd hung themselves as Liao took the city. The guoshi strolled through the hall, slender fingertips brushing the feet of those swaying corpses. His expression was so light and relaxed, he might have been caressing wind chimes. He loved this kind of atmosphere, to indulge his insane tastes. He still hadn't allowed the corpses to be taken away, though he'd lived in the governor's mansion for 2 days now. He walked to the end of the hall where his guqin waited. Under the bright glow of the lamps, one could see this teen was made of human skin, strung with human hair, and studded with 9 human eyes. Those eyes whirled wildly, flitting furiously to and fro. The guoshi sat down at the guqin, strummed the strings, and closed his eyes as he resumed his playing. A lonely straw hut sits at Wanli Bridge, the Bai Hua Pool where I've made my home. Wind whispers through green bamboo. Rain washes down on fragrant blooms. Successful old friends ignore my letters, while my son's gaunt face drowns me in shame. These old bones will soon lie in a ditch, yet I laugh in madness wilder than my youth. Footnote number 4, Madman by Du Fu, a Tang Dynasty poet. It describes beautiful natural scenery in contrast to the poet's pathetic circumstances, highlighting his tenacity in refusing to be cowed by his environment. His fingers plucked the strings. First, a lengthy song, then a leisurely song, a mournful song, a gentle song. By the time he played the first notes of a lullaby, the sounds of spells exploding could be heard in the distance. After a long while, perhaps a shurchun, maybe two, a thundering boom shook the earth. Indistinct screaming rose from the far-off city walls. "Open the barriers! Open the defensive barriers! Dispatch the defense cultivators to the eastern gate!" The roar of flames and screams of the dying burst from beyond the walls. By the time they reached the governor's manor, they had splintered into incoherent noise further muddled by the music of the nine-eyed teen. At the end of his song, the guoshi finally looked up. "They're quick to lay siege, aren't they?" he remarked. "Why don't you ask which generals of Chonghua came this time?" The attendants at his side bowed his way out. "The brothers defending the walls report that the commanding general is their Shihejun, Mo Xi." "Hardly a surprise," the guoshi replied. "That Mo brat is fierce on the field. It's only his shushong he cannot face. Now that we've returned Goo Mahng to them, deploying him here is expected. And his deputy general? Murong Lian." The guoshi smiled. An addict. There's one more." "Oh? Who else?" the guoshi asked with rapt attention. "Murong Mangzi." The guoshi's fingers paused over the teen. "Sending a woman as deputy general?" he sneered. "Is Chonghua on the verge of collapse, or is their dear little emperor trying to get his sister some quality time with her beau? Murong Mangzi, a healer with a withered core for deputy general. How many men did Chonghua give her?" 50,000. The guoshi snickered. 50,000. Murong Mangzi may know a few battle tactics, but her body is weak. Is she not afraid of dragging the others down? What thick skin that little girl has. Just as the guoshi says. "Oh, that reminds me." The guoshi paused. "What of Goo Mahng? I hear his relationship with Mo Xi improves by the day. Mo Xi even took him back in his own manner as a servant. Will he be present for this battle?" General Goo, knowing he had erred, the attendant hastily corrected himself. This subordinate misspoke. It's Goo Mahng." The guoshi smiled. "No harm done. If nothing else, he served our great Liao for 5 years. Great Liao isn't a stickler for rules like those stuffy men of Chonghua. If you wish to call him General Goo, go right ahead." But how could the attendant dare continue to call Goo Mahng general? He hurriedly replied, "The guoshi is magnanimous in his forgiveness. According to information recently obtained by the Department of War, the Emperor of Chonghua decreed Goo Mahng a test subject for black magic experimentation. When they finished, he was on the verge of death. Without the beneficence of an immortal ascended to the highest of heavens, or bathing in a divine tincture of life, he couldn't possibly have recovered sufficiently to come to the front lines." Upon hearing this, the guoshi didn't relax at all. He narrowed his eyes, pupils flashing with a cryptic light. "Who said Chonghua doesn't have such an immortal? Isn't Jiang Fuli a holy sage capable of regrowing flesh and reviving the dead?" Mockery laced his words. The attendant hastily answered, "The spy telling Jiang Fuli said he went out traveling again. He isn't in Chonghua. His qinggong is strong. He's always been elusive. If he doesn't wish to be tracked, he'll escape no matter how closely he's followed." The guoshi said, "Of these enemy troops, we've no call to worry about Murong Lian or Murong Mangzi, but keep an eye on Mo Xi. And if there's anyone who resembles Goo Mahng, even in the slightest, report it to me immediately." "Yes, sir." The guoshi swept his sleeves aside. "Go then, defend the city. I'll be in seclusion for the next 3 days. Afterward, I will personally come deal with these children." The attendant nodded respectfully, quickly bowing and taking his leave. The guoshi's fingertips returned to his teen strings. With a few gentle plucks, he resumed playing that drawn-out melody. Successful old friends ignore my letters, while my son's gaunt face drowns me in shame. Those old bones will soon line a ditch, yet I laugh in madness wilder than my youth. The night deepened, and the distant shrieks of men and far-off boom of explosions rang clear through the air. Beyond the walls, the cultivators of Chonghua and the Liao kingdom faced off. Blood flowed into rivers, yet in the depths of the city, within the governor's manor, the guoshi's teen music never faltered. When the crescent moon hung high, his sprinkling frost over the roof tiles, an oil lamp within the governor's manor burned to its end. A spray of sparks burst from the wick as it winked out. That manor, filled with swaying corpses, became still more devilish and eerie. In the sudden darkness, one could see that, behind a curtain of gauze, an arm's length from the guoshi, a ball of hazy light had been floating in midair all along. That ball of light was dim, undiscernible in the lamplight. It hid in the corner, rising and falling, so frail it seemed it would disperse at any moment. The guoshi looked up, his gaze darting from beneath his golden mask to land on the murky ball of light. His pearly teeth clicked as he whispered, "Look, Jing-chen, I've coddled you for so long. Will you still not wake?" The glowing ball called Jing-chen flickered weakly and darkened once more. The guoshi narrowed his eyes. "There must be a limit to your willfulness," he said, low. "Recover soon and come back with me. If you fall into the hands of these men from Chonghua, that herd of hypocrites certainly wouldn't understand you like I do. You don't want to be sealed again, do you? Be good. Wake up now." I don't. This was a lot, y'all. A lot to absorb in these chapters. And I don't know where to begin on my notes at all. But one thing I can say is that I'm actually not going to say too much because I need to take the time to absorb these chapters for real. And I think we all do. I've got my extensive notes, but I need to organize them because it's too much. So I guess I will start off, I'll just say a couple of things, and all this stuff will be reviewed when we do the live recap. But so in chapter 39, the soldier that caught them about to kiss, I just think it's so funny that he went through a plethora of thoughts. This man was like, "Oh my gosh, he's being unfaithful to Princess Mengzi." And then is he going to kill me to keep the secret? Or what's going to happen? And he's like, wait a minute, this person has a mask on. It could be Princess Mengzi. I was just like, oh my gosh, guy, calm down. It's really none of your business, honestly. And it's not like all these people have it in their minds that Moshi and Princess Mengzi are supposed to be together. And they've never said anything to clarify that. But still, it's just y'all, let's calm down with this. So anyway, when we go on further to things that matter a little bit more that I want to talk about, I guess we have come to the realization, yes, that the Liao kingdom did not keep their 2-year peace treaty, and they launched an attack on Chonghua's weakest pass on their border, and that was the Shituo Gate. And His Imperial Majesty also seemed to have a flare-up, which we learned that it was not a flare-up, and was down for 20 days, and he let Murong Mengzi take over, gave her full authority. Yet we have these nobles who decided that everything that she was putting out there, even though Morsi himself was like, this is good, let's go with this, they vetoed her. And because they decided to undermine her and the emperor like that, they ended up losing so much. The Liao kingdom was able to capture 3 cities, one of them being very important, and they lost tens of thousands of soldiers. What the heck? These people requested reinforcements, the emperor said 14 times, and they were too busy in their own schemes to care about the people. And that was so upsetting for me. So of course, The emperor finally comes out. He finds out about this and he is livid. And I am with him, with him. He deserves to be livid because while they were sitting there doing what they were doing, he lost all these people, and they're trying to be like, oh no, it's fine. Like we were just trying to uphold the law and yada, 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 and do. And, one of the nobles even went so as far to say, like, we lost the cities in one pass, but law and order were preserved. So it's not necessarily without merit. And I was like, excuse you? Like, what good is maintaining law and order or that being preserved when tens of thousands of lives were lost? And it wasn't just like regular people's lives, which that's important too, but these were soldiers. These are people that fight for you guys to keep Chongqua thriving as it is today. That's 10,000 people that could help you win a war, my guy. But, it's fine because law and order were preserved? What if the lack of those 10,000 soldiers is what makes the difference between victory and defeat? Like, I was like, this is how you know that these nobles don't know nothing. That is a horrible sentence. They know jack shit about fighting in the military of any kind. Like, are you kidding me right now? So it's just like... I slick got mad. I was mad with the emperor, and I just wanted to take all of those men and just smack them up and everything. And I agreed with the emperor when he was like, I'd rather have pigs with neither brains nor ambition than subjects with ambition but no brains. Because all of them, they're just eyeing the throne. And, instead of focusing on things that matter, they're like, oh, if your imperial majesty is sick, then you need to let us know because, like, we need to know. But really, y'all just plotting against this man. That's all y'all doing. Y'all want to find someone else to take over. You don't have respect for the emperor, and that was made very clear when he gave Princess Meng the full authority, and y'all still questioned it, which means you were truthfully, really questioning the emperor. So anyway, then we get to, the emperor, which this is the part I'm not going to talk a whole lot about because it's so much information. But the emperor reveals the origin of black magic, which we learn that no, it's not from Hua Puan just making stuff up, but he learned it from Chen Tang. Okay, he learned these things and then he found ways to make them bigger and badder. And that actually makes sense. It's like he found a way to remix it and make it taste better, if you will. He found a way to remix it and possibly make some things even stronger than they already were before. And there are literally only 2 sigils that separates Chonghua's techniques from black magic. So now we know that is deeply like black magic is not something that just came out of thin air. It has Chonghua's techniques as its origin, which I'm assuming that is Chonghua's deepest secret in history, because that's a pretty big thing. People are thinking that this is something like not equivalent or not of Chonghua at all, but that is not very true at all. So anyway, then he talks about this Demonblood beast that has great power. It was never killed. It was really sealed. And I just rhymed. Anyway, and it has malevolent chi that, like, this thing is badass, and it can't even be killed. And it's been sealed in one of the places that was taken. That's a city. So aggravating. Now, mind you, the beast clearly, like, the seal has already been broken. So that's already a problem. But then the other problem is that the people that were, in their mission there found a wisp of the soul within the lake it was once sealed in. So all it is now is a matter of the Liao kingdom finding that and putting him together. But then we also have, like, the previous emperor wanting to make something like it, and they ended up creating something that's literally the exact opposite of it. Instead of the Demonblood beast that can put malevolent chi in people and consume them, this beast was a spirit beast that was capable of purification. And so the late emperor was trying to raise a spirit beast that was capable of countering the demon, blood beast, but that failed. And no one knows where the incomplete body of the spirit beast ended up. Now, because this is so recent in history, my theory that I threw out there was that maybe that was possibly like Goo Mahng, or like Goo Mahng has something to do with that. Okay, he does. And maybe that will give us more explanations on that. What was it? A lotus tattoo or a birthmark or not? Birthmark or something on his arm. Maybe it has something to do with that. Who freaking knows? And not only that, you have like Zhou He's father and Murong Lian's father and the emperor, of course. They were all connected to this spirit beast in secret, and they all have been affected by it. And well, we know that the emperor was connected to Goo Mahng. He treasured Goo Mahng greatly. We know about Murong Lian and Murong Xuan already. As far as Zhou He's father, not sure of how he was connected to Goo Mahng, but like connecting those dots is just kind of like, okay. Please don't tell me, because, you know, I've already said before that, you know, Goo Mahng's Beast of the Altar, I don't think that name is just for show. He is some kind of sacrificial lamb in some kind of way. Like, it is even deeper than I guess I have stated before. But this is even more tangible now. Oh my God. And I don't like it whatsoever. But anyway, so we have this. And like I said, that's in Datsa. So the emperor is like, I need you to command the Northern Frontier Army and go get that wisp of spirit. Like, the goal is not to take the city back. I mean, that may happen, but the goal is to get that thing, okay? Get it and get it back, because if you don't, not only will Chonghua fall, shoot, the entire country and then possibly the rest of the world is gonna go to shit. So it's like, wait, hold on. Okay, that's fine. That's okay. So there's that. And it's very concerning. And then, of course, in chapter 141, where it's Return to Battle, we have it that Moshi is going to lead the Northern Frontier with 50,000 cultivators from the winged cavalry under Murong Lian's command. And then another 50,000 of the Scarlet Plumed Battalion is going to be run by Princess Mengzi, which we've already been through that, right? No one respects her because she's a woman. And these guys are arrogant and everything. And they're even thinking thoughts about why the emperor would even place her over them. Is it for personal reasons? And it's ridiculous. So like, we'll see how all of that turns out. And we know that, sorry, I'm putting my aligners in, that Goo Mahng was offered to rule them, just wear a mask or something like that. I mean, command them. And of course, he can see the painstaking effort that Moshi put in it, but that's risky. And I think that Goo Mahng's decision to say, just let me fight alongside you guys, was smart. Because if his identity, if it's found out, that can bring chaos and unrest in the army, in the military, and that's the last thing they need. And the stuff about his memories. But also, if he is found out to be on the battlefield, not just by Chonghua, but the Liao kingdom, there's no telling how they could/would use him in the battle. So that's concerning, especially when we talk about this guoshi. This guoshi, he's crazy, y'all. He's really crazy. I don't think I really need to say anything about it at that point. We already knew that the real authority of the Liao kingdom was the guoshi, right? This man has always lost his marbles. In fact, I don't think he ever had marbles to begin with. But y'all, doing something as crazy as to make sure that the people that are plotting against you don't have a leg to stand on, you go to the person they were going to go to, the queen mother, and you rape her in front of her own child. And he's just a little boy. And then you're like smearing her blood over his face and everything. Not only that, but he's just killed his messenger officials at random, not even sure if they did something to offend him or if he was just like, I think I feel like killing someone today. Sure. And then the corpses of the governor, his wife, and his 5 children, they're just strung up and he's like, I like it here. We like to party. I'm like, my guy. And then, of course, we already knew this, but his guillotine is made out of humans. Okay, disgusting. I don't think I can say enough about this madman. He is crazy, and I'm scared of him myself. And he knows entirely too much. When he was asking for reports on, the commanders and everything, he was like, oh, Moshi, okay, we know about him. He can't face blah, blah, he can't face Goo Mahng, but any other time he's a beast on the field. He's like, Murong Lian, an addict. Maybe I can do something with that. Princess Mengzi, she's got a weak core. She's a woman. So like, And I'm just like, oh my God. I don't know how he's going to be using these things against the other two. Not only that, apparently he was like, is Goo Mahng on the battlefield? And we just read that or whatever. But I think now, because during our live session of the recap of Volume 4, someone asked why Jiang Fu Li was in such a hurry to leave. And now I'm wondering if that was possibly done on purpose. I mean, he's always on the move, clearly, it said, in previous novels. But I'm wondering if this time it was deliberately done so that it didn't seem like he stayed and he was called to help Goo Mahng at any time. Because remember, all of this stuff happened like really, really quickly. So the spies that were there, it's possible that they missed those 3 days of when he was helping Goo Mahng. But anyway, he's out there, whatever. And the guoshis, he's concerning. I'm scared. And I don't know what he's going to do. But Goo Mahng is going to be found out. And something is going to happen with Goo Mahng. And I am not excited about it. And this man is way too leisurely. But one thing I will say, and apparently he has this ball of light, which we know is the Demonblood beast, and he's calling him Jing Chun. I don't have the characters for that, but I'm concerned, very concerned. Do I sound concerned? Because I am. And one thing I can say, though, is that I actually really like to voice the guoshi. Jing Chun is in here. It means to purify filth. Yeah, in the back of the thing, it says this is the weakened form of the Demonblood beast and the Liao Kingdom guoshi's pet obsession. Okay, so he likes pets. Got it. Anyway, so what I said. Yeah, I'm scared. Okay. I've run out of words. I think I've run out of breath too. I'm a little too hype right now. Okay. Y'all have a good day and a good night. And Aineman, I love you guys. Te amo, saranghe, ich liebe dich, or something like that. I forgot how to say it. And all of the other ways that I don't remember at this moment.